Caleb the Bailiff presents... Hello, my name is Caleb the Bailiff, and today I'm going to be showing you how to fill out your Affidavit of Property and Debt. This is one affidavit that you'll need. The other will be the Affidavit of Basic Information, Income, and Expenses. These two, along with maybe a judgment entry, a separation agreement, or perhaps some other documents, would be required generally for dissolutions, divorces, anything of that sort. Now, there are two ways to figuring out what documents you need and how to fill them out. The first is you can get an attorney. Very simple, a little more expensive, but it makes this process streamlined. The other is to try and represent yourself. Now, if you're going to represent yourself, it's of course less expensive. However, the court here can't give you any form of legal advice, nor can we help you fill out your documents. So you're going to have to be able to say, yes, I know that I can come to court with all of the required documents filled out, complete and correct. That's what it means to represent yourself. So if you're going to go that route, that's great. However, you're going to have to be confident in what you know. So, without further ado, I'm going to show you how to fill out your Affidavit of Property and Debt, and then perhaps afterwards you could check out some other videos, like filling out your Affidavit of Basic Information, Income, and Expenses, or any others that might help you get along the way. So let's get started. So page 1, we're starting out and we're going to write in the Court of Common Pleas, we're in the Domestic Relations Division. Then we can write that it's Trumbull County, Ohio, and for the first line there, you can put your name. I put Caleb Bailiff for my name, and in the defendant or petitioner 2, you can write your spouse's name. Now, I'd really recommend pausing this video and reading this box very carefully. It says several different things. It essentially tells you to write everything you own or owe, and then it tells you to write even anything that's a joint property, write that too. Then it will also tell you to write none where there isn't anything. So if you don't have anything in any category, just write none there so the court knows. And then it will also tell you to put EST by any numbers that you're just estimating on. So starting off, we'll go to the Affidavit of Property and Debt. This is the affidavit of your name. And then for real estate interests, I put the marital address. You obviously put the real marital address of your home there. Present market value is at $120. And then it's titled to me, and the mortgage balance is $30,000. Now, to get the equity here, we're just going to take $120,000, subtract $30,000 from that to get $90,000 equity. That's what's left over. And then that's really all there is for that section, unless you have other property. So I'm going to write $90,000 in total for section 1. Moving on, section 2 for other assets. This is asking for vehicles or other title property. So I'm going to put a vehicle there because that's what I have right now. And then in the description, I'm going to put that I have a 2017 Ford C-Max because that's what I own. And then it's titled to me, and it's valued at $8,000. This would be a good place to put EST if you're just estimating the value of your car. So page 2 starts off by continuing with other assets. So I'm just going to put another vehicle as an example. Maybe it's titled to my spouse. So I'll put vehicle, then in the description what kind of vehicle it is. I'll put that it's titled to the spouse, and then how much it's worth. Then for financial accounts, let's say I have a PNC checking account. I'll write that it's titled to me, and then how much I have in there. And maybe my spouse has a Huntington savings account. I'll put that it's titled to them, and then how much they might have in there. Again, you can write EST if you don't know that number specifically. But we'll move on. Pension and retirement plans. You can put the name of the pension and retirement plan. So I put 401k Fidelity as an example, and then in the description you can write what kind of plan it is. Maybe it's an OPERS, or maybe it's an IRA, 401k, whatever it is. Then I'll write who it's titled to, and then how much exactly is in there. Publicly held stocks, bonds, securities, and mutual funds. I'm going to say that I have some publicly held stocks, and then in the description I'll write the name of the company and about how many stocks that I have. So I wrote 250, and then I wrote that it's titled to me and how much I think it's worth. And then as another example, I wrote that maybe I have my spouse has a bond, and then I can write in the description who it's through, that it's who it's titled to, and how much it's worth. And that pretty much wraps up page 2. So on to page 3. So page 3 starts off with closely held stocks and other business interests. Now, I'm not going to put any more examples here, so what I'm just going to do is write none for both of these rows and then move on. As for the life insurance, you're going to want to put the name of the life insurance company and whether or not it's term or whole life, maybe in parentheses next to the company name. And then in the description, I'm going to write that I am the insured life, and then Title II and valued as always. Then for section G, for furniture and household goods, I'm going to write maybe my spouse has some couches and I have a washer and dryer, so I'm going to put those assets in and list who they're titled to and what they're worth. Then for the safe deposit box, this is the part that's interesting. Now there are certain rules here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to write parentheses next to the category cash or whatever is in your safety deposit box. Then in the description, you can write the marital address or wherever it's at, the actual address of wherever it's at, obviously. And then write who it's titled to and valued. Then for all other assets not listed, like firearms, tools, jewelry, anything of that sort, I put art down just as an example. This is where you can list anything else that you've missed. Then I'll show you how to total the section for section 2. So let's do some math. So now I'm going to show you how to total up all the numbers to get your total section 2 other assets. Now I've highlighted the numbers that we're going to be adding up together. And I have on this third page 15,000, 200, 500, and 10,000, which gets me to $25,700. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip back to page 2. And for the other assets there, I've highlighted them too. I have $3,000, $1,000, $2,000, and that's of course going to come out to $6,000. So I'm going to go back to my little formula there, and I'm going to write plus $6,000. Then I'm going to go back to all the way to page 1, and on page 1, if you remember properly, all I have is just that vehicle there, and that's $8,000. So we have $8,000 on page 1, $6,000 on page 2, and $25,700 on page 3. So adding all of those up together, that's going to come out to $39,700 total. And you just put that in there total. So now we're on to page 4, and page 4 starts off with separate property claims. So separate property claims like anything that came before marriage or an inheritance that's only to one spouse, those would be good examples. So what I'm going to do in the description is I'm going to add what it is, so inheritance, and then after that I'm going to put maybe it's some cash, and I'm going to put a reason for why I'm claiming this as a separate property claim, so it's an inheritance for me. And then I'll put how much it's worth. Then I could put maybe like a stamp collection as something that I had from childhood. So I put personal, and then it's premarital, as in I had this before I even got married. And then I'll put how much it's worth. And then once you're done with that, if you have all of your separate property claims, what we can do is we can add $5,000 plus the $200 to get us our total for section 3. Now for section 4 debts, it says to list all of your debts and to even the joint debts that you have with your spouse. Don't leave any categories blank, and if you have a blank, just write none there. And if you have any estimations, so if you don't know a number specifically, you can just write EST in all caps, and that'll let the court know that you're just estimating. So starting off, I'm going to put a car loan down and say it's through Ford Loans because that's what I have, the name on the account, how much I have in total, and how much I pay for monthly. Same stuff. Then I'm going to move on to unsecured debts like credit cards or medical bills, anything that's not backed. So I'm going to write a student loan since that's what I have. You can write your school and your name, total, and how much it's worth. Then we're going to move on to a personal loan. This is another example. You can write the bank that this is through, and then your name, how much you have, and how much you pay for it monthly. And then lastly, we're going to write a credit card, maybe a store credit card or a bank through a spouse. I'm going to put that little EST thing there to show you that I'm just estimating how much my spouse pays, and that's it. So page 5 starts off with any other debts that you might have. I didn't have any, so I just wrote none there. And then the total section for debt is I'm going to go back through the last page and total up some of the other numbers that we had. So going back through, I pay $500 monthly towards Ford Loans. And as you'll notice, I'm using the monthly numbers because that's what the court wants to know. So I'm going to go for the school loan, and I'm going to highlight the $400, and then I'm going to go for the personal loan, and I pay $200 for that monthly. Now I'm going to total up my monthly numbers, so $500, $400, $200, and that's going to get me to $1,100 for total section 4 debt. And that's really all you do for that. Now, after this, I'm going to go on to bankruptcy. I'm going to say that it's filed by me. Date of filing, you can just put in whatever date you had filed for this. Date of discharge or relief from stay, again, whichever date is applicable. Type of case, for example, Chapter 13 bankruptcy case, and then currently monthly payments would be $500, and that's all there is for that section, so I'm just going to put in the total 5 section $500. Oath or affirmation says do not sign until a notary public is present. So that's pretty much all we do until we take this page to a notary to get it all signed off. So now that you have your affidavit of property and debt fully filled out and notarized, as long as you have any other documents that you might need for your specific case also fully filled out and notarized, then you're good to come to court. And that's where you'll actually get this information, which is on page 1, your case number, judge, and magistrate. And then beyond that, you're pretty much good to go. They'll give you a court date for when you can come back next, and then you're on the process and going. Now, the only thing that I can tell you beyond this is my biggest tip is to have everything filled out fully and correctly. I know I keep saying that, but this is important because if you come to court and you don't have everything in order, then the judge is going to be looking at you as the same amount of authority as any attorney that would represent you. Essentially, if you're saying you're the lawyer, you're the lawyer. So if you don't have all your documents prepared and in order, then he has the right to be able to throw you out of court and dismiss your case. Or a lot of times they'll reschedule it, and that's just a hassle. So I hope these videos help you along this process, and if you need more help finding whatever documents you might need or filling them out correctly, there are other videos and there's more resources for you. Thank you and good luck.